So as part of electrification, we have to make tunnels and bridges big enough to accommodate a pantograph. If we can make that pantograph smaller, either mechanically or electrically, we reduce the amount of civil works required to allow electrification to be installed.
We worked with Network Rail to reduce the costing of electrification. As part of this project, we see the deflection of the overhead wires. And in the strong wind, these overhead wires will be deflected and might disconnect the connection between the electricity, the overhead lines, and the pantograph. In this particular project, it includes aerodynamics of the overhead wires and structure, and also the deflection of the overhead wire. And this actually needs expertise in numerical modeling in both CFD, computational fluid dynamics, and finite element method. And we have the expertise here. And also in terms of experimental or physical modeling, we have the environmental wind tunnel behind me, which is a great tool to validate any results from the numerical modeling to give Network Rail the accurate results they can implement it in real life.
I was using finite element analysis to establish the maximum deflections under assumed static or dynamic wind forces and see whether the currently used design standards are safe or overly conservative or even unsafe.
When we do the wind tunnel testing, we open the fans at the end of the wind tunnel. It rotates, it creates wind similar to the atmospheric wind that the contact line and the catenary can see in rail running for the train. Then we can get the different forces on the catenary when we do the actual wind tunnel. So we are trying to create wind similar to the atmospheric wind.
We replicated numerically the results we got experimentally with a good enough agreement, and after validating the model, we were able to simulate the full complex large system. The longer a span is for the overhead line equipment, the more the lateral deflections increase. However, if we can approximate more accurately the wind forces and reduce the wind loads, we may be able to get away with longer spans.
Now we can change the standards for Network Rail, and then Network Rail will take the results from us to modify the standard, the drawing for the design for the overhead wires and overall structure for the electrification.
Based on the results of this project, we managed to update the drag and lift coefficients according to which the overhead line equipment has been designed until today.
So now, by the finding of this project, we can go for the cheaper option. We can go for a lighter structure. We can go maybe for a smaller diameter of the cable. And if we keep the same cable, then we can go for lighter structure, which is less expensive, and it will take less CO2 emission to manufacture this structure and to reduce the overall cost for the whole system.
So University of Birmingham have been looking at wind actions on the overhead line equipment. The wind impacts the overhead line in two ways: the force of the wind on the conductors and the structures, and also the position of the conductors. The university uses various techniques to understand the position of the contact wire in those high wind locations. This has allowed Network Rail to update our overhead line design range and increase the span lengths, or the spacing between the overhead line structures, from 65 metres to 95 metres. We believe this will reduce the number of structures required to electrify the route by over 5%. The contact point between the pantograph and the contact wire is about the size of a pound coin, and the train is running up to 125 miles an hour. The amount of power transmitted over that contact point is equivalent to a small town or village in the UK. So it's a huge amount of power delivered on a very small point at high speed. To achieve that, there's a number of engineering restrictions placed on the overhead line engineers. If we can improve the dynamic performance of the pantograph, those restrictions will be reduced, and therefore the cost of electrification in the UK will also be reduced.
Most of the work that we do here at the Institute of Research is supporting the industry to develop better overhead contact systems, but also to develop better pantographs in order to reduce the cost of electrification. Whenever we have a level crossing or an underbridge, the contact wire needs to go up and down, and these gradients are more steep or less steep. And according to the standards, the trains are required to run at a maximum speed depending on the gradient steepnesses. The idea is to develop new technologies that enable us to get pantographs that are able to cope better with the catenary If you are able to run at larger speeds in steeper gradients, that will avoid to rebuild the bridges or to close level crossings, and by doing that we reduce significantly the cost of electrification. We have a full-scale bogie test rig that enables to study adhesion, braking conditions, also friction modifiers and wear of wheels and rails. We have a smart maintenance lab that use robots to do inspection of the trains and also to do the small maintenance activities that are required. We have also the pantograph test rig that is probably the most advanced test facility in the world.
We have our test rig called Panther, where you do several experimental tests with pantographs to test their dynamic performance and try to achieve better performance on these pantographs. This interface, it's very sensitive because whenever we don't have a contact between the pantograph and the overhead line, we have arching, which damage the wires and the pantograph as well. We are developing here on this project a new suspension system for pantographs based on inerter technology. An inerter is a device that improves the performance of the suspension systems. It has been used with great success in Formula 1, and now we are trying to apply this same technology on pantographs. Thanks to the high performance of this test rig, we are able to excite the pantograph at high frequencies, and we're able to identify the performance of the pantograph and identify areas for improvement and see where you can apply these inerter systems better. By improving pantograph performance, we're able to design better overhead lines that are able to help a more cost-efficient electrification.
The project we are working on with Network Rail, Huddersfield and Brecknell Willis is inerter pantograph project. We are focusing on modifying the base actuation system. Bristol has the world-leading expertise on designing such actuation system to enhance its dynamic performance. So that has been Bristol's key role in this project.
The pantograph has many components. It has the pantograph head, which consists of a carbon strips which collects the current from the overhead wire. It also has a base or a base pneumatic actuator.
My team at Bristol has developed world-leading expertise in designing vibration suppression and actuation systems. And these designs will lead to transformed performance in those actuation systems.
There is definitely more improvements that we can do, such as integrating it with inerter devices, which is one of the key expertise from University of Bristol's research group.
In order for us to design a next generation pantograph system, we need to do clear modeling of the current system, and the model needs to be generalizable in order to predict future design alterations. We successfully developed a generalizable model which characterizes the dynamic properties over the pantograph's full operation range.
Now that we have a model that is accurate and can predict the pantograph dynamics more accurately under different conditions, we can use that to start looking for improvements. And we have seen that just by integrating inerters, we see that we can get much big improvements to the whole performance of the pantograph catenary system.
This enables us to do design modifications and identify those designs which can significantly enhance the pantograph overhead line interaction dynamics. We are going to prototyping, do lab testing on the device, and also a rig to test the real-life performance improvement. The future of the UK railway is we can electrify as much UK railway as possible with very low cost, and also by enhancing the dynamic performance, the maintenance cost can be significantly reduced as well. Hopefully we can contribute significantly to net zero transportation in the UK.
It's a really exciting job for me to identify and actually bring in all this new technology and new thinking into the electrification field. This is an opportunity for us to introduce a low carbon, energy efficient system for transportation around the UK for years to come.